Digital photography made simple.
Hello, welcome back to D1to1. We're the photo guys, and on this segment, we're going to show you how to use your photographs to tell a story.
Now, we see this being done all the time, every time we turn on our television to watch one of our favorite shows or to go to a movie. Now, let's take this same idea and apply it to our photography.
Our cameras are wonderful tools these days. They help us to photograph our environment as well as the experiences within those environments.
And for us to do this with more confidence, we want to start thinking in the way those television shows are actually created.
Now, just like our movies, we have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and some filler photographs to complete our story.
And, you know, we don't want to bore our families to death with images that all look the same when we come home from vacation.
And we're going to show you two sets of images. The first one is when someone just goes and photographs their environment, situation, but doesn't really tell a story. And the second set is where we follow those rules of beginning, middle, and an end, and some fillers, and to complete that story.
Now, I had an opportunity to photograph my friend's garden party, but here, as I'm showing you, I didn't really think of the story at the time, and basically these three images are good shots on their own. But we're really not experiencing what I experienced as the photographer being there in that environment. Now, in this next set of images, you can see that I've utilized some different camera techniques to create more of a feeling so that you feel like you're experiencing what I did. And that's what it means to tell a story in your photographs, to actually express the experience through a series of images.
Now, a great way to tell stories is to pre-visualize our ideas before we take those photographs. So following our rule here of basically the beginning, middle, and end, we pre-visualize what those shots will be ahead of time.
Let's think about the beginning. We're going to want to establish an environmental overall picture. So that's one way to approach it, which I would say use a wide-angle lens to encompass the whole scene. The middle part could be our point of view, our angle, and how we're shooting particular scenes within that story. And then finally, we want to complete the story with a good ending shot.
Now, we suggest using different techniques as seen in Ken's second part of his story. It was a much more creative story by using those different points of view, different perspective, and different focal lengths.
When telling a great story with photographs, it's important that we use different techniques like we've been suggesting. So take advantage of your zoom lens. Use the wide angle. Use the telephoto. Hey, even use the macro part of your lens to get some nice close-up details. And then for some great action, try doing some panning to create a little bit of a blurred background while your subject is still in focus.
That's right, Ken. And you know, composition is very important. So remember your rule of thirds or your foreground background and blur that background with your depth of field. Those are going to get you those interesting photographs. When the viewer looks at them, at your story, they're going to find it much more exciting.
Many times we feel that all the shots we took on vacation or a family event or whatever we're photographing is the story itself. It's important that we learn how to edit.
Yeah, that's right, Ken. We don't want to bore our viewers. You know, friends and family are nice when they take a look at our images, but we need to tighten up our stories. So we suggest starting off with 5, working yourself up to 7 or 10, and then maybe up to 15. That's going to make our stories much more creative and much more interesting to look at.
And use the techniques we suggest in order to help tell that story. Because the last thing you want is somebody to sit watching your images waiting for some good shot to happen.
Yeah, that one shot all the time where everybody's trying to go out for that great one shot. So tell that story.
Now, one of the things about storytelling is the time factor we have. Now, in my sample shots of my friend's garden party, I only had an afternoon, really a couple hours, to actually think about telling that story. But we're going to show you another story where Santino went out for a week to learn how to weld, actually.
And this is exactly what I did here. I welded for a week, and I had my friend Alicia document day by day my progress. And as you can see, I did a camera, some eyes here, and a picture. And Alicia was able to document detail by detail and show the progress and bring the viewer in exactly how someone welds.
Good stories portray how the subject feels within the place they're in. perhaps showing some emotion, or how they're relating to that environment that the photographer is photographing them in.
Basically, the photographer's job is to describe the experience that that viewer sees in those photographs, giving the viewer a sense of place and feeling and a mood that comes across in telling a story.
We encourage you, the next time you go out to take some photographs, to use this story structure idea.
Now, when you go on vacation or a school event or a birthday party, remember the beginning, middle, and end, and use some of those fillers to complete your story.
We're always looking for that one perfect shot.
You never know what we're going to end up with when we tell a story.
Hey, we may end up with more than we had actually hoped for.
And that is usually the case when you tell a story.
The adventures we take as photographers when shooting like this allows us to find wonderful images we would have never thought to take.
So don't just take that one shot. Tell the whole story and get the viewer involved.
Hey, create a story out of your next event.
So remember, for the best tips in digital photography, look to us here on Digital 1-to-1.